The year was 2017. There was a new political season in America, and the New England Patriots had just won the largest ever comeback in Super Bowl history. People were still having in-person events, and a thing called Zoom video calls were just barely turning a profit, and were mainly used by businesses. The National Quartet Convention was celebrating 60 years, and in Tulsa, Oklahoma, God was allowing a young man to live out his dream. Exclusive premiered for the first time ever on May the 12th, 2017, and for the next 5 years would literally go all over the world on digital platforms. This year we celebrate 5 years of incredible stories because of an incredible God, because of the Lord and your faithful viewership and support. However, friends, that's only a timeline of dates. Today, as we look back, I hope that the real story and reason behind Exclusive will finally be told. So with that, let's take a look back at Exclusive, 5 years of incredible stories. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Exclusive. And today I get the honor and the privilege of interviewing one of my favorite people, the one, the only, Leon Snyder.
Jeremy, don't put me too high. I'll just celebrate my 81st birthday.
81st, that's what I was thinking. People would be surprised to know you're really 81 because you do not seem like that age.
Really? Well, thank you. You're a nice boy. But I'm amazed at your talent to playing the piano.
Well, I think we've both
and we
been very
worked
blessed.
together on the radio some, and you got great potential. Yeah, so.
And you've told me story after story, and that's one of the reasons when I started this, I thought of you, because you've got so many incredible stories. And you told me the story about how you experienced a stroke years ago.
Well, before that, when I was just at the age of 12, I had polio, took polio.
Yes.
And the doctors came, and I was running this high fever. We lived out south of Broken Arrow. And the doctor examined me and said, that's when a lot of young people were getting polio. And he told my mother, said he'll never walk again. But he didn't know her, how that she was a praying mom.
Yes.
And she prayed for me, and God instantly healed me. And I got through that one. Then I had a stroke about 10 years ago. And it could have been worse, but God was able to get me through where I can still do the gospel DJ and do pastoral work here at Broken Arrow. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on, you know.
Keep on
as long as you
keeping
enjoy it so much, you know, why quit?
And then I know a lot of people know this about me, and I want them to know, and it's not an act to me, but I'm passionate about people being happy, smiling, living life to the fullest, taking what God's called them to do very seriously, but not taking ourselves so serious that we can't stop and laugh along the way, enjoy our lives, and I've never heard anybody on their deathbed say, I wish I would have laughed less. You know, there's always work. I don't believe in being lazy. I'm not saying all that, but you know, sometimes we've got to do this, got to do that. Sometimes it's okay to laugh, enjoy life, because life will wear you down. And I've said this many, many times. I'm not a great preacher, just a great big one. But Reader's Digest, thank you. Reader's Digest for years had a segment called Laughter, the Best Medicine. Always read that, had funny stories. And there's a lot of truth to that. That's not exactly what the scripture said.
Right.
It's close. But the scripture says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. And if we can get our hearts happy and merry, then I think it will heal a lot of the other things that we suffer with day by day. And so that is something I'm very passionate about. I'm not ashamed of. It's not a hobby horse to me. I believe God's people should be the happiest people on the earth.
we should be. Now, my guess would be that the number one McCamey song in your history would be God on the Mountain.
You're
possibly.
right.
Okay, now how did the McCameys acquire that from Tracy Dart?
We didn't get it from him.
Oh, okay.
No, I have a friend in Chattanooga. She's never been married. We've always exchanged messages because she loves preaching and I do too.
Yes.
So she would send me preachers coming to her church and preach. She'd send me a copy of it. And one day she sent me this, had God on the Mountain on a trio singing it.
Wow.
And it was two ladies and a man, I believe. Anyway, it was a trio that sang God on the Mountain. And I'd been listening to that preacher preach several times of that sermon out because we loved preaching.
Oh, yes.
And so Reuben said, well, we're going to do this live DVD, and we need some songs. And we never did have any songs. I couldn't find any more. And so I suggested this song. And you know what he said to me? Oh, no, honey. He said, we don't know that song well enough to record it. I said, okay. So the time came to record. We didn't have any more songs, and we had no choice.
Now it was time.
And we talked about this last week, Reuben and I did, how I don't know how in the world it would have turned out. It couldn't have turned out any better. God had his hand in it, and he stirred the water. I'm telling you what, and people come unglued, and wow, and we captured it on recording.
And that was the Gone to Meeting live.
Yeah.
Yes.
See,
Woo,
if you'll
that's
notice
good.
that Gone to Meeting live is a short CD. It doesn't
It
have.
kind of is, yes.
Yeah, and that's why, because we didn't have any more. So
You have answered a wonderful question there.
that's the truth, honey. That's the truth.
When I began to research a little about you and things about that, I seen there was one big common theme that was popping up about you and your music. When God Unfolds the Rose.
Yeah,
I would see video after video of them posting.
Yeah.
Tell us, how did that really come about?
Well, a friend of mine named Frank O'Brien is a boy that lives in Natchez, Mississippi, and he wasn't at the church. My boys and I would go hunting and fishing. He had an old hotel. We'd stay there, and he had an old pawn shop. And we'd go in the pawn shop, and he had a piano there and guitars everywhere, guns. And my boys and I were singing with me at that time, my three sons, and we'd get around that piano and sing. And old Frank, he played the guitar, you know, and he would play the guitar and sing with us. He was kind of a songwriter of sorts, you know.
Oh.
So he would write country music. And so later on, he got the Holy Ghost. And so he began to write sacred music. And so Frank wrote the lyrics to When God Unfolds the Rose. He handed it to me one night on an old piece of paper. And I carried it around my pickup truck for, I don't know, 6, 7 months, you know. And so I was there preaching one night where we went to church, and he asked me if I sang the song. I said no. Well, we went over it. He showed me how. I said, tell me how it goes, you know. Well, it evolved into like a ballad type song. And but you know, it's blessed thousands of people. And when God unfolds the rose, he always gets it right. Now I would say this: Frank, a friend of mine, Brother Vaughn Morton from Fresno, California, was preaching a conference, a camp meeting there in Louisiana, and he preached a sermon he's preached all over the country called "Just Let It Unfold." And Frank was there that night and heard Vaughn Morton preach "Just Let It Unfold," and he went home and wrote that song. Wow. When God Unfolds the Rose. So you never, you know, sometimes the small things, is big doors, as we say, big doors swing on little hinges.
That's
so
true.
there you have Frank O'Brien, you know, and his pawn shop owner, but he's written some incredible songs, and right there in his pawn shop, you know, and it's just wonderful, wonderful man, saint of God. You know?
Not one, not two, but three. Can I get a witness? You know, and yeah, you just do those kind of things. And then the last one, and I got this from him, was I opened a little music box, and to my surprise, it had my tune, and it sounded just like this. And it ran down just like I have. And the moral of the story is, use what you can, what you've got. And that's my story.
That's true. In July of 2017, we had aired the first 2 episodes of Exclusive, and I began to toss and turn trying to figure out where do we go next with Exclusive. And I felt a word drop into my spirit to begin to interview people in the Southern gospel music realm, people that still have incredible stories to tell because they serve an incredible God. So with that, we sat down with 2 gospel musicians, Billy Blackwood and Butch Owens. And forever I will be indebted to those 2 men to take time out of their busy schedules to sit down with us in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's take a look at some of those memories.
God gave me my gift,
Yes.
and I feel like my job is to, by all means, do the best you can with it.
Right.
Get tips, get help, but in the end, just be you. Use what
Don't
God
try to
gave
sound
you.
like somebody else.
Right. Don't just be you. Sound the best you can at what you sound like.
Right.
And take God's gift, polish it up, and work on it. Just continually work on what makes you you.
Right.
You know, I may not be a great singer.
Well, to
and
me,
that's
you're one of
okay.
the best.
Oh, I appreciate
think
that's
that
very
too.
kind of you to say, and I appreciate that. But you know, to me, it doesn't matter that I'm one of the greatest or not.
Right.
That's not important. What is important is that I'm serving God with the gift He gave. And 2, when people hear me, good or bad, I want them to say, "No, that's Butch. That's not so and so." And the only way they can do that is for me to sound like Butch.
Right.
So,
And to me, you sound great like Butch.
Thank you,
It would be
Jerry.
no other.
thank you.
So what's it like carrying on the tradition of the Blackwood name for the Blackwood brothers?
You know, Jeremy, it's an honor and a privilege and a challenge all at the same time.
Right.
You know, we have such a legacy and so much history. But, you know, really, as significant as all that may be, that doesn't really matter if when you show up to a venue, you don't do something that touches people's hearts.
Right.
Because people are only going to be impressed with history for so long. You know, lots of awards, lots of travel, lots of records, all that. Well, big deal. You know,
Right.
sing something that's going to touch my heart. And so, you know, in our concerts, we touch on the history and the legacy, but our focus is more on choosing songs that are going to minister to people's hearts, so that when they leave one of our concerts, they feel like they've been in the presence of the Lord. They feel like their burdens are lighter, and they can make it another day if they're going through tough times. And that's really more what we're about than,
Right.
you know, I mean, we don't deny the history.
You've got
It
a
is
big
what-
legacy,
It
but
is
at
what
the
it
same
is.
time,
Yeah,
it's
but
about the gospel.
it's
That's
about the
what this
gospel.
music's always been about, touching people's hearts and lives.
exactly.
Friends, some questions that we've often received on Exclusive is, number 1, why did you start Exclusive? Exclusive first premiered in my mind in 2016, and it was started mainly because I wanted to interview my grandmother. A lot of people don't know that, and actually no one knows that till now. Anyway, she was such a gifted storyteller, and her stories always mesmerized me. She was the average person, an ordinary person. She didn't have any really what you would call special gifts or talents, but you know, here's the thing. It doesn't take something extra special or being on the road in ministry full-time or something like that. Friends, she was just an ordinary person, and I always loved hearing her tell stories. So that is part of how Exclusive started. I cannot tell you how many times over the last 5 years I have got asked that question. Do you do this full time? I'm like, friends, I'm going to be quite honest here. We've never asked one time for financial support. We've taken trips, we've interviewed people on trips, things of that nature. We've had to buy equipment. Not one person has ever given us money to support Exclusive. You know, we've never wanted to force and try to make people support us because we've always left that up to the Lord, and He has blessed us, friends. So, no, this is not my full-time job, place of employment. I'd go broke if it was.
a lot of places that we go, the hardest thing for us to explain to people, especially people who've never heard the gospel or who have made up their mind that they're not going to believe anything about it, is this really isn't a fairy tale. It's not some story that has been made up to teach a moral lesson and blah, 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 blah. No, I know because I walk with God. Yes. I walk with Jesus. I like that. I talk to him every day, and he talks to me, not in a crazy, weird kind of way.
I started writing about 16, and I would write for my family, and then as time went on, I just kept writing, and I didn't know why I had all these songs, because I thought, really, my family's the only ones that sing them.
Yes.
But as time went on, and the Lord blessed, and I got with the Schulers, my wife's family group, we started singing in more concerts from time to time, and we would be with different artists. And as I was writing during that process, Ivan Parker. We sang with Ivan Parker one night, and he asked, "Where did you guys get your songs?" And I said, "Well, I wrote them." And he said, could I listen to some of your songs for a new project? I said, "I'd be delighted." And so he took the project and recorded a couple of my songs.
Oh, wow.
He was the first major cut that I ever had, being heard there, and then people started asking for more songs, and it just kind of took off from there. Once I had a song that hit pretty well, then all the other songs people started taking notice of.
Okay.
And it's funny because once I had a song that hit pretty well, all of the, I shouldn't say all, but most of the songs that I wrote through the years have now been cut.
Oh, wow.
But it took one to introduce me to the people. And so it's just a timing thing. I tell songwriters, keep writing and have patience, because it's not an overnight thing. Even if someone cuts your song today, if they put it on hold, they've got to record it. Once they record it, it takes time. It could be a 2 to 3 year process before the song is released.
That's true.
And so it takes time. So have patience and keep writing, and God will open the doors as He sees fit, and it will. You stay faithful.
That's
true. God will bless.
One question I always try to ask everyone: when a lot of people come and ask you, "How do I get started in Southern gospel music and all this?" What advice do you really give them for that, or the ministry, or even life?
I don't, because every person's doors are different, and
That's true.
I didn't plan it, so it just happened. I was church organist, and a group came to my church, needed a piano player. I didn't go audition. I didn't send out demos. So the doors that the Lord opened for me were unique for me. And same thing with you or anybody else. The doors that the Lord uses, there is no formula. If you could figure it out, it's not God. So
That's true.
there's no formula. So you just have to, I tell people, kids especially, sing every chance you get. You never know who's in the audience. Sing every chance. If you're a player, play every time you get an opportunity. Don't shy away from it. Don't act like you're modest. If you're asked to play, play. And the Lord will have the right person in the room at the right time.
Great advice.
When He's ready.
That's true. That's true. It's all about Him, and
Yeah.
He'll open the doors.
He will. If you push your own doors open, you won't make it long term. If you do, you're miserable.
That's
So
probably true.
I'd rather be happy.
So what is the greatest struggle that you face daily with ALS right now?
Right now, it's mental, emotional, and even sometimes spiritual.
Yes.
When I was given the diagnosis, all of a sudden, all of everything I had worked for my life in gospel music, and it was taken from me. I don't have a job in gospel music. I don't have anything concrete to do, or there's nothing there. There's nothing left for me, and I really started to get depressed.
Yes.
When it comes to that. So, and it affected me mentally and emotionally and spiritually was when I was granted this reversal. It's, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like a patient, a cancer patient going into remission.
Okay.
It's not the same thing at all, but that's just kind of a visual. It helps
Right.
people understand what it is. A reversal on an ALS patient is when some of the symptoms reverse, just like it sounds. And for some people, it's as small as being able to move a finger or a toe, or maybe being able to move your leg at the knee or your arm at the elbow, or maybe being able to speak again after not having been able to speak for, a year.
Right.
And sometimes, in rare cases, it's as major as myself, where you're able to get up and walk again with the aid of a walker or a cane.
Now, tell us the story. I already heard a little bit of it tonight. I didn't know the full story of how you really began to get the gift to play the piano.
Well, I was about 3 years of age, and my daddy was a pastor in a Wesleyan church, and he was preaching on a Sunday night on the gift that God gave Solomon about wisdom. And as a little child, I was sitting on the front row on the very end towards the center aisle, and I remember that striking me. And I thought, I want to do that when I go home. I'm going to ask God for a gift. Now, I was 3 years of age, so I didn't have the ability to comprehend a whole lot, but I do remember that Dad said that Solomon asked for a gift and God graciously granted it. And I remember that just striking me and just so deep in my heart.
Right.
And so that night, that's exactly what I did. I went home and I got down after I put my pajamas on. I remember kneeling at the end of the bed and I began to beg and plead with the Lord. And in my little childish, simple way, saying, please, 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 begging him, would you give me a gift? Like you gave that king my daddy was talking about. And that was really the start of maybe everything that you see today.
Wow.
Of course, I didn't have the ability to understand all that at the moment. I didn't think I was going to be a musician. I was too little to think like that. But I thought that I would be the wisest woman, because Solomon was the wisest man and there was no woman like him. And when my mama tucked me in that night, I remember thinking, I wonder what I'll be when I wake up in the morning. So that's kind of how that got started. Yeah.
Wow.
No, so.
Now, you talk a little bit about your testimony as far as prison background.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I did about 9 years in prison. I was supposed to do life. I wasn't supposed to get a chance to come out, but I was doing my time, and I gave some serious time in prison, and I did hard time because of all the evil things I did.
Right.
As a young kid, I was, like I said, every time in the concerts, I'm a former gang leader. I've given orders to guys to take out people. When I say take out people, murder.
Right.
And just remove them and hurt them or do all the terrible things. I was just a facilitator. I just pointed and people do it, but I was the one that gave the orders. And drugs, you name it, all kinds of evil things. I was involved with that and did some serious time. Finally caught up with me and served some time, and I found the Lord inside of prison. And I tell people, the reason why I turned to that life, I grew up in the church. But my father was a preacher, my father was a singer. At a young age I would watch him, but there was something that he was always carrying around that nobody had a clue. And the secret was he was an alcoholic. Stand behind pulpit every week and preach, but he would come home and show us something different, and he would abuse us. And to the point that one person he would abuse the most was our mother. And man, oh man, the kind of beatings that he would give him, no human being deserves that.
No.
So we rebelled against this God. Right. Not only me, my brother, and my whole cousins and family, we didn't want nothing to do with Jesus. So we figured, why don't we start something, create something for our own selves and maybe our own family, where we can show each other love, and which I thought was the right kind of love, but I didn't realize I was heading down the wrong road.
Right.
But I finally got caught up with all these evil things, and the devil just took half of my life, And I did the devil's deed for too long, and now I tell everybody, he had his way half of my life, now God has the other half.
Yes. Monty Kels and Edward Green, two men that you will never meet, but two men who made a considerable impact upon my life. One lived in the state of Oklahoma, and one lived in the state of Mississippi. One was like a grandfather, and the other was my grandfather. But both men, since their interviews first aired on Exclusive, have passed away. They showed me how they lived, but much more, they showed me how they died. It's an emotional time looking back at this footage, but I want us to take a look at those two interviews. And it's been so good learning about you, your time spent in Southern gospel music, singing in this state, and even in other parts. But thank you so much. Tell people, how can they contact you?
One more thing I want to say
Sure.
before we close this out. There's been a year since page 1. This is
Right.
page 2. I don't believe there's going to be a page 3. I've had friends that are gone have told me they felt like it was their last Christmas or last this or that. And I think I mentioned that this was almost like coming home to me to get ready to go. And I've told a lot of people that if I don't see you again, I'll see you in heaven. And I do want to see you there. Little buddy, I want to see you there.
And now, with the passing of my grandmother, your wife, it's a burden that we all carry, but it's one that through Jesus we can help overcome because of that. And it will be a struggle for a while, mainly because her passing has left a blow for our family. But Jesus, let me tell you, the very last thing grandmother said to me, you were in the room when I went in to talk with her, and she told me 4 words. She said, Jeremy, God makes no mistakes. When it's all said and done, when life is over with, what do you want people to have said about your life?
He lived right, try to do what was right.
That's a good answer. It really is. Because a lot of people in this age and day don't try to live what's right.
Oh, sure don't.
Friends, I hope you have enjoyed 5 years of incredible stories because of an incredible God. When I think about Exclusive and all of what God has done for us, it's overwhelming. I'll go to our YouTube channel at times or maybe our Facebook page, and I begin to look and see messages and see videos, and I have to raise my hands and say, God, what a work that you have wrought. Because in my own self, I could do nothing, friends. Any of you that know me personally, you know Grimes could have never pulled anything like this off. But how do we end today? I've been thinking about it. I thought about bringing in a special guest or doing something like that, but I wanted to end today with a word for you. Linda Green, that we've already told you about, who I had planned on being our first guest, she was my grandmother and such a vivid storyteller. I love to listen to her. She left me a note. 1 month before her passing, I received a letter in the mail, and it had this little note attached. And I'm going to leave this line with you today. It says, Dear Jeremy, keep standing strong for Jesus, and you will not go wrong. Friends, if I had one word that I could leave with you today, it would be keep standing strong for Jesus. Since 2017, our world has changed so dramatically, but the one thing that has not changed is Jesus Christ. The Word says that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So keep standing strong for Jesus. As the Apostle Paul would say, having done all, to stand. So friends, if I could leave one word, it would be continue to stand. Each of you out there, I believe, have an incredible story because of an incredible God. That's not hyperbole, that's not mere rhetoric, but it's the truth. This is Jeremy Grimes saying, I'll see you next time on Exclusive.